I teach at an alternative high school.
Cool.
So I teach 9th through 12th grade. And the thing is like a personal uh, thing about me. The reason why I teach in an alternative high school is because it has to do with my philosophy on the prison system and things like that too.
Yeah.
Because even within the education system, the school to prison pipeline, among many other things, they're very much school disciplinary policies. They're very much connected with the prison industrial complex. So a lot of the kids that I meet with and that I see, a lot of them already have a previous criminal record. They've been to juvie, things like that. They've already been tracked by the system. So like for me, trying to show them like education and not just in terms of a textbook, but in terms of learning, that can be something that benefits them long term in life.
Yeah.
Because early age, especially in the United States, a lot of people, depending on where you come from, are classified as criminals. So whether they're done it literally through the juvenile system or based on what schools they're bused to and the places where they live, this criminality becomes an early part of who they are. So,
Yeah.
like me working in high school, me working in alternative high school right now is kind of my own way of like taking part in that, doing like trying to rewrite the way those things happen. And we'll see how effective it is, but that's one of my personal things that I'm really interested in.
Yeah,
Just because I see that.
100%. Yeah.
Richard's also out there teaching these high schoolers about abolition.
Oh, absolutely. Well, here's the thing though, because I teach. I'm technically hired as a social studies and English teacher was what I was hired for, but at like a school like ours, you end up teaching a lot of different subjects. Like I've taught algebra 2 and geometry, and then like business and yeah, a couple business classes just because they didn't have a teacher to teach during those blocks or whatever. But um, I call it political education, but it's actually like introduction to abolitionist ideas. So in a government class where you're supposed to learn strictly about, founding fathers, historical documents, uh, the way, I guess, I don't know, all these other things that you have to learn for the state. I do have to teach those things, unfortunately, so I do teach those things. But at the same time, I bring in other ideas too. Like we talk about, okay, this is the way the system works. So then we have debates and discussions about, oh, this is what the system purports, this is what the system says it does. But then how does it actually impact you?
Right.
What's really going on with our government, with our systems? What is the impact of these legislations? What did it really do? We have way more discussions. Like I don't know if I really should do that, but all my classes are way more discussion based than your typical high school class. Because as you can tell, I really like to talk and I really like to talk about these things. So like I let kids come at me with a lot of questions and we have long discussions about it. And like my personal goal was to say that abolition is for everyone, no matter your age or where you're from. Just like most people think capitalism is for everyone. People teach capitalist ideas and they teach the carceral mindset and all these things about our system to kids at an early age. So if you're going to start helping people relearn how to think about that, got to start at any age. And I give a lot of the kids a lot of credits because they're all really smart. They just haven't been told that they're smart. So then they don't. So then they don't achieve the way that they actually can achieve because they've been told that they're these type of people. Without having a real sense of self. So I think through like teaching abolition and teaching all sorts of like stuff I think they're actually interested in, it's my way of helping them to try to find themselves, and hopefully that helps them out some way.
Well, in a lot of ways too, like teaching about the way that our government and capitalism actually work is teaching people like what rights they have, you know.
True.
And while you were saying that, it kind of like had me thinking too about how,
Mhm.
you know, there are all these different structural roles, like a teacher, like a doctor,
Yeah.
you know, that you can take on and also step in place of these systems, like
Exactly. Yeah.
prison pipeline, stuff like that.
Like the way I explain abolition to my mom, who actually is a major supporter of like the work we do now,
Hell yeah.
is that the way to talk about abolition isn't always just about saying ending the prison system as a whole, letting everybody out of prison. Of course, we want to do those things. Why not? Of course, but the way to start engaging certain people is to meet them where they're at with the topic. So let's say somebody's interested in like drug reform, or somebody's interested in education policies, things like that. Well, abolition is a solution for all those things, because capitalism plus the combination of the carceral state, it's created an entire system where any mechanisms that we have are ineffective in doing what we want those mechanisms to do. So the real simple way that I explained abolition to my mom, it's about not going to the cops first, not going to the government first, but first developing solutions to all of our problems from within communities. So whether that be through education, through rehabilitation programs, through whatever avenues we can use communal accountability as our main resource, rather than relying on an outside force to shape how we interact with each other. The problem with the way a lot of people think about the prison system is they see it as the only solution or the first solution. They don't think outside of that first. So if we can start getting people to think outside of carceral solutions, outside of prisons to address small needs, then we can think later about how to address some of those other issues.
Larger issues, yeah. And a lot of things I've read have talked about how America as a society is very like we're very punitive, and we see like punishment and going to jail as like that person deserves that.
Because I think a lot of people have a misconception on the actual benefits of prisons. Like, obviously, like we've talked about already, like there's a good number of people who support the prison system because of the system of capitalism that it's completely interconnected with. But there are definitely some people who have this idea about the way prisons work that's just not true. Like prisons protecting people or keeping the bad guys in and the good guys out. That mentality is how we deal with them. What if we actually create a communal accountability system where they live, so then we hold them accountable so they don't do those other things, rather than outsourcing accountability to a system that isn't held accountable by anything or anyone.
And that also kind of makes me think about how obviously the way that our policing is not in the interest of protecting people, but then we could have a society where we do actually protect people, but not through violence, you know. And yeah, the violence that's in our policing and everything is, I think, just creates violence in our communities. Whereas, like, when people have like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's a really different situation, So if we were protecting people's rights and their needs to things more so than that. So, I've been in support of prison abolition, but it is the kind of thing where I'm like, I don't know how to do it. I don't know how it works, But you guys have really like kind of helped me to understand more about like what incarceration means. And then, more about like how to go about changing the system that people are living in, so. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, I think it's also okay to like not know what our end game looks like.
Yeah.
not know all of the steps to get there, and still know that like we want freedom for everyone, and like we know what we need to do in this moment to address people's immediate needs. But I feel like there will always just be trolls who are like, how are you going to have full abolition? It's like, we can imagine that, we can dream that, we need to be visioning it, but we don't need to have all the answers to know what we need to
do. Like, the only thing we need to know for right now is that there is a ton of evidence that shows the current system doesn't work in any ways. It's getting people to understand that the solutions that we currently have, no matter whether it's about whatever it's about, aren't solutions at all. But there is a ton of evidence like that to support that. Like, right, the fact that prisons and even our policing system create more violence. There's a term called the brutalization effect that describes that, and sociologists and criminologists have documented that since, I want to say, like the 80s or 90s, the impact that a violent system has on creating more violence. Like, there's all sorts of ways of describing that stuff, but also just thinking about how to put it into simple terms that anybody can understand.
Yeah.